Hi, I'm David Kelley. I'm president and CEO of Chakana Copper. Chakana Copper is a junior exploration company focused in Peru. We have a very high-grade discovery in the Soledad breccia pipe. Thus far, all of our exploration has been focused on tourmaline breccia pipes, which host very high-grade copper, gold, silver mineralization. But it's part of a much larger mineral system, and we're just in the final stages of getting a drill permit that opens up the central and southern part of the project, which together with the existing permit covers the entire mineral system. So we have many more high-grade tourmaline breccia pipes to drill, but we also now have access to some very large tonnage targets, the mega gold porphyry target. It's the copper gold target in the central part of the mineral system, and then we have a very promising high sulfidation epithermal target to test that's on the southern part of the project. So we have some very, very exciting exploration targets to test, in addition to advancing our knowledge and studies associated with the high-grade resource that we put out last year.
David, thank you very much for the introduction. It's good to be speaking to you again, and I'm excited about drilling. Oh my goodness, this drill permit has taken a while to arrive, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And, that's always been one of my complaints, Merlin, about Peru, is that it's a very bureaucratic country in terms of the way it deals with regulatory policies. They have a very good mining law and a very good environmental law that I think sets Peru apart from many countries, but it does take a lot of time, and we've been frustrated with how long it's taken. It's been about 2.5 years to get this permit for the southern half of the project, but there has been a lot of progress. We did get our environmental approval at the end of December 27th. We've now moved to the final stage, and I anticipate we should be drilling by late April, May, sometime in there, which coincides well with the end of the rainy season, as you would know.
So I can see from your news release that you're talking about, you've got all the permits. You're just in the final stages of, it's called the initiation of activity, the AIA. Is that what does that involve? I mean, it seems odd that there's a kind of you've got to get approval to start almost after having got all your approvals.
Yeah, it is odd, and the environmental permit is the key milestone, right? That's where all the baseline studies, all the environmental work, the archaeological surveys are done, and that's usually the part of the permit that takes the longest. It's very comprehensive, and getting that is a huge step forward. But yeah, then you have one last final stage, and that's when they check your surface access agreements. They evaluate whether or not consulta previa is necessary for your project, and we've been told that consulta previa is not required for the private ground that we're going to start with, which is the mega gold and the Joya high sulfidation system, as well as some other breccia pipes that are on private land. And so that's why we're excited to announce that we will be drilling soon. We know that the initiation of activities goes quickly. When you're dealing strictly with private land, it does involve getting a water permit. We're already well advanced on that. So this is good news for us. It means that we will be drilling soon, and we can carry forward with the technical program that we've planned.
And are you flexible within that drill permit on private ground? I mean, are you able to be results led rather than being pad led, if you understand the question?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I can't remember the exact number, but we have something like 130 or 140 platforms in the permit, and they understand that you're doing this as kind of pre-planning. This is where you think you want to drill. There's flexibility to move individual platforms within that. And then you can also relocate drill platforms. Like, let's say that we exhausted all the platforms that were in our permit, the 140 or so. We can relocate unused drill platforms from the broader permit area to augment what we have. So, we think we have plenty of platforms in the permit area already, and there's flexibility to move those around as necessary.
Good. It really sounds as if the permitting process, as lengthy as it has been, kind of takes the brake off and gives you lots of operational flexibility during the course of the next 12 months and possibly beyond.
Yeah, that's right. And, Derek, we made good use of that time. Of course, we've done all the targeting work. We've completed several different geophysical surveys. we've really approached this from a very comprehensive, systematic, multidisciplinary exploration approach involving, detailed field mapping, alteration studies of the rocks, spectral studies, surface geochemistry in a number of different ways, and in multiple different geophysical surveys. And that really culminated with a targeting workshop that we held last year with Goldfields, our biggest shareholder, who brought tremendous technical expertise to the meeting, and along with our own team. So we have some very, very exciting targets. They're multi-dimensional. They hang together very well, and I'm excited to talk to you about it because it's going to be fun to drill these.
Well, you've you certainly had enough time to do the kind of the initial planning, and it was Mike Tyson's phrase, isn't it, that everybody has a plan until they get a punch in the nose. So I'm not going to hold you to every drill hole that you lay out now, but can you talk me through what you're aiming to do in kind of terms of where you want to put your initial holes and what you are hoping to test, please?
Yeah, and this might be a good opportunity to transition to one of the slides. We could start with slide number 8. And slide 8 is a map showing the total targets on the project, north and south. And just for our listeners, we've been restricted to only drilling on the north side of the project up until this point when we get the permit for the south. And within that, we've tested a number of high-grade outcropping tourmaline breccia pipes. This led to a number of drill campaigns that culminated with a resource that was put out last year. It's about 6.7 million tons of what works out to be about 1.88% copper equivalent, or 2.75 gram per ton gold equivalent. If you just talk of metal equivalents, it's about 650,000 ounce gold equivalent resource starting at surface, going to an average depth within the pipes of about 330 meters. The pipes are open at depth. We know there's additional pipes to find because there are blind breccia pipes on the property. These are not breccia pipes that erupted at surface. They still probably had a kilometer or two of rock above the tops of the pipes when they formed. And that's one of the reasons the fluids are so well contained that we get, some exceptional grades, including massive chalcopyrite zones, that are running 27% copper. But the south side, is it brings us down the hill, lowest elevation on the project, where much more intrusives are exposed. And we think the primary controlling factor for this is what's called the Lincuna Fault. It's a through-going regional structure. It can be traced all the way up to the north, to the northeast, just on the north side of the Antamina ore body. We think it's part of the same arc normal or arc transverse structure that controls where the intrusions are able to get into the shallow crust. And this is part of our project where we're at the lowest elevation, more intrusives exposed. This is where we're seeing this huge gold anomaly. It's one of the most impressive soil gold anomalies I've seen in my career, and I have a specialty in exploration geochemistry, and I've seen literally hundreds and hundreds of soil surveys in multiple different environments. And this is a very, very impressive gold anomaly that sits on the south side of the project from the base of the valley up the hill. And you can see that in this slide that I'm referring to. It's called the mega gold anomaly. Within that anomaly, there's multiple different types of targets. There's geophysical targets, there's alteration targets, there are tourmaline breccias inside of this. The tourmaline breccias are the latest event, and we think that there's a blind intrusion within this area that has a very strong geophysical anomaly associated with it, strong geochemistry. We've done hyperspectral mineralogy on the alteration that we see at surface and put together a very compelling story. It all fits together very, very nicely. So that's the mega gold anomaly. In the southwest part of the project is the La Joya high sulfidation epithermal system, and that's another very exciting large tonnage target.
Can I just on mega gold? How many holes are you going to be putting in, and how many meters have you kind of allocated in your first pass for this? area?
Yeah, so for the drill program we planned for 2023, we've planned a 4,000 meter drill program. The initial plan would be about 2,800 meters in scout drilling, a number of different targets. I don't have an exact number on the mega gold target per se. It certainly will get the majority. My guess is it would get 1,800 to 2,000 meters of that initial 2,800, testing, specific features of the target. And, in relation to the geochemistry, we have very strong surface geochemistry and we have underlying geophysical anomalies. So our goal is to optimize the drilling to get holes that test multiple features at the same time, right? And then the plan would be to come back once we've done that initial route. Yep.
Presumably there'll be kind of inclined holes somewhere between 200 and 400 meters in depth, or are you kind of planning kind of a fixed hole length, or to just kind of see how you go as long as you clip the various anomalies that you've accumulated within that drill area?
Yeah, that's right, Merlin. And you've done this before, right? So you know the drill here. It's very much going to be. We're definitely going to be drilling angle holes because you want to cover as much lateral geology as you can. We will be targeting specific features like the high chargeability anomaly, or the contrast from a resistive zone going into the high chargeability zone of the geophysical anomaly underlying a gold anomaly. And absolutely, if we're in mineralization or really strong alteration, or we can see alteration vectors helping us out, we will keep drilling. We're not going to go in there and say we're not going to drill any deeper than 250 meters. But the goal is really to understand explain the anomalies, right? That's whenever you have these multidisciplinary targets put together, you want to understand what's causing the gold anomaly we see at surface, what's causing that chargeability anomaly, what's the geology? Is it a blind intrusion? We have a very attractive inferred intrusion that we think is the source of this chargeability anomaly. And I want to find out if that hypothesis is true. But we probably will be drilling holes on a fence. So we'll do, we'll start on the maybe the northeast side, and we'll drill a 200 to 400 meter hole. Then we'll step up 500 meters. We'll drill another hole in similar kind of orientation and try to step across so that we can put together a body of understanding about the target per se. And that's really the best way to do it. It's almost like stratigraphic drilling. People will talk about that, but of course that's really not the controlling feature here, stratigraphy, but it is scout drilling in its pure sense of the meaning, in that you're trying to understand the big picture here very quickly so that you can then orient your follow-up drilling to be very targeted on certain features.
What you've described there calls for a certain degree of patience from the investor, because if you talk about scout drilling to vector in on your phase 2 drilling, you are effectively saying that don't expect too much from the first round of results by way of hard numbers and mineral content.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the exploration game. We do, really solid, well-founded technical work, but you always get surprises, right? You always have things that you think you knew that you don't. And the drill hole, the drill rig is oftentimes the one that's informing you that your ideas were not correct. But the thing that's exciting to me about this project in particular, we know it produces high-grade mineralization. It was an extremely high-energy system, right? To create these tourmaline breccia pipes in the first place requires a tremendous amount of energy release. The tops of the intrusions that were accumulating the volatiles that then erupted to create the breccia pipes, those are the kind of intrusions that can be very, very significant. They can be giant porphyry systems. We already know that from studying tourmaline breccia systems globally. We've got a big system, a big footprint. The strike length of the system is about 6.7 kilometers. I think it would be worth just focusing on slide. If we look at slide number 7, the cross section, It provides a very clear understanding of our interpreted geology from all the drilling we've done. We've done over 60,000 meters of drilling on the north side. We understand that geology very well, and we're moving now to the south side and taking the knowledge of what we have there. But we have a major through-going structure, the Lincuna Fault. It clearly controlled where the intrusions came in. There are multiple intrusions. We see an early granodiorite, about 15.3 million years old. 300,000 years later, another intrusion comes up on the edge of that original granodiorite intrusion. So the structure is the original fault controlled the initial intrusion, the marges of the initial intrusion, then controlled later intrusions. And so there's a structural story that's unfolding here. But what's really interesting to me is that the geology on the central and south part of the project is different than the north. We don't have the sheer number of tourmaline breccia pipes. We have more exposed igneous or intrusive geology, and we have these big, giant, robust signatures, not these bullseye breccia pipe type of signatures. And that's telling us that we're closer to the heat engine that's driving all of that.
I was going to ask, are you comfortable that that structural suture, the Lincuna Fault, hasn't had a huge amount of movement on it? But it's obviously been a long-lived feature that has had many phases of quite quiescence and then reactivation. But are you comfortable that the geology is closely related on both sides of the fault, or is there a possibility that there's been a kind of a major movement on the south side?
Yeah, we think that the Lincuna Fault is part of a left lateral strike slip type of fault, which is very typical of these arc normal structures. There probably is a little bit of up and down, maybe reverse movement, but originally we thought that the south side had been uplifted significantly, eroding deeper geology, and that's why we see the difference between the north side and the south side. But we no longer believe that, because if you look at that cross-section in slide number 7, there's a very conformable stratigraphy from the highest elevation on the north side, an area called Cima Blanca, to the highest elevation on the south side called La Joya. The La Joya is where the high sulphidation, alteration, and outcropping mineralization exists. And the stratigraphy that hosts those two areas is very conformable. So we think there's been very, very little offset in an up and down sense along the Lincuna Fault.
Nice, got it. Yeah, of course. As soon as you start talking about that, I can see the stratigraphy across the whole cross section across the full 7 kilometers. I should look first and open my mouth second, but it's good to get you to explain it to me. Just stepping away from the geology a bit, your market capitalization is sub $20 million. It might even be sub $15 million. What do you think are going to be the value catalysts? What are going to be the catalysts to kind of really kick the share price? Do you think you're going to see a bump when you start drilling, or is it going to have to be results driven?
Well, it's hard to predict what the market's going to be like. I mean, it has been a very difficult market, and I do see companies releasing good results and not getting any reaction from the market. I mean, it used to be in the old days, just getting a drill permit or knowing that there was going to be news flow was a good thing. I don't think our market's like that right now. I think there's still a lot of apprehensive investors. A lot of money's been pulled out of the financial markets and sitting on the sideline. I think it will be results driven. And I'm okay with that, because I think we have great targets, and these are the kind of drill programs where it could only take one drill hole to really set this thing off. If we can confirm a mineralized intrusion on the south side, that could rip this thing right open. We know we're going to have more high-grade breccia pipes. We know that this high sulphidation zone has good grade mineralization. It was drilled historically by Buenaventura, and it's an intact system sitting there. So, we know we're going to get good results from some of this drilling. But there's huge upside too in testing some of these larger targets. I'm not happy at all where we're at from a share price or market cap standpoint. I think if you look at the fact that we've got 650,000 ounces of gold equivalent in the ground already on open breccia pipes on the north side, and many, many more of those to go. I think you can certainly make the case that at a 12 or $13 million market cap Canadian company that we're grossly undervalued. But we're not alone. There's lots of other companies out there. But I do think it's a great investment point now. It's to the point where I think our valuation is ridiculous. I think we've got a great solid program. We've got a key strategic investor in Goldfields, 18%. They put in $12 million since the start, and they're super keen on these targets. They were part of it. They were part of the technical work that went into defining these targets, and they're very excited about the program and where it's going. We have some very good institutional and long-term shareholders, so we're doing the best job we can to keep the share price up, but we also realize it's a very difficult market, and they want to see results, and we're going to deliver results.
It's just on that valuation kind of theme. As you say, you're not alone. There has been so many exploration companies that have had their valuations crushed in the course of 2022, and indeed, despite a little bit of a recovery at the end of 2022 and into 2023, the valuations are still well below long-term averages or peer comparables that you might expect to see through the cycle. I guess you've had the added overlay of volatility in Peru, which has, the presidential elections, the riots in the street, a few mine sites have down in the south have been blocked. There's been a kind of a raft of bad news out of Peru, and yet it's still a mining country, and the mines by and large are producing just as much as they were before. It seems to be a country which is more geared up for mining than for exploration, and I think you've just got over that hurdle now with that with your exploration permit. So I wonder, am I wide of the mark when it comes to my comments on Peru?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, Peru has been, I went back and looked the other day, what's the average duration of a presidential term? And going back, 200 years, it's been volatile. It's always been volatile in Peru. And, I used to maintain a PowerPoint presentation of the last 20 years, last 30 years. How many presidents have we had? The numbers are ridiculous. There's been something like 5 presidents in the last 4 years, And so we said, well, okay, what's the copper production done during that time? And what we saw is that copper production was really steady, slightly increasing. Las Bambas comes on, huge jump in 2016, steadied off, kind of slowly, gradually climbed. And then COVID hit, and it dropped off with COVID. And then, there's been a slight recovery, but it's still at that very, very, very high level, still number 2 in the world in terms of copper production. And so the message was clear to me that presidents come and go, but the fundamental underpinning of Peru's economy, which is mining, has worked its way through that. It's too important to the economy and to global copper production for it to be put on the sideline. They definitely struggled with COVID. It's been very difficult to watch what's happened with the presidential election, and then all the the impeachment of the president and the fraud charges and the investigation, all of that stuff. Yeah, no doubt. But I do think things are improving. We have a meeting next week at PDAC with the Minister of Energy and Mines, and he's a very impressive individual. What gives me hope right now, Merlin, is that the new president that came in and was sworn in after Castillo was impeached has appointed a very, very impressive cabinet. The Minister of Energy and Mines, 39 years experience in the oil and gas industry. The Vice Minister of Mining, very, very long, successful career in natural resource work. So I'm very encouraged by the level of expertise and back experience that's now sits on the cabinet that didn't sit there 6 months ago, right? So I do think we're headed back to good times. I understand that the protests are abating, and we're getting our permits. So I think it's headed in the right direction.
Happy days, getting drilling again. It's always it's always good to be drilling. I can't not ask the question about cash. How are you doing for cash? And is 2023 funded?
Yeah, we are partially funded for 2023, and it depends again on how the drilling goes and how much drilling we ultimately want to do. We have 2.7 million Canadian in the bank right now, which is a healthy treasury. We've done, a very thorough job of looking at our cost structure and reducing costs everywhere we can. Salaries, the size of our team, just everything we could do. Just an example of how we save money. We've always preserved our sulphide intercepts, or the high grade sulphide intercepts, the drill rejects in a freezer container to keep them ready for metallurgical work and to prevent oxidation. Because most companies will go out and do a multi-million-dollar drill campaign just for metallurgical sampling, and we felt that we were doing so much drilling that a lot of that information could be used and made available. So we put all that stuff in a freezer container. Well, we've recently repackaged all those in a nitrogen vacuum sealed environment. Individual samples turned off the freezer container. We save, a few $1,000s a month there, just electricity costs alone. So, just lots of little things like that. We've optimized our cost structure. We're focused on capital preservation so that money can go into the ground. So, we're reasonably healthy on that regard, and that's really by design.
Good. Well, well done for taking all those measures. I just kind of by way of wrapping up, could you talk me through how you've kind of blocked out the news flow in an idealized world? I mean, obviously we all want to make discoveries and you hope that you get good results out, but on the bits that you can control, what does 2023 look like? And I know we've only got 1 month left in Q1, but perhaps quarter by quarter, what does 2023 look like and what you can control?
Yeah, Merlin, and I haven't even talked yet about the work that we're doing with the existing resource. We do have a high-grade resource that starts at surface. There's an oxide cap to those breccia pipes. The preliminary work we've done on the oxide zones shows us that the gold leaches very easily from the tops of those. So we're doing some internal studies on, what kind of value could the tops of these breccia pipes bring in a very simple, oxide leach type of scenario. We're looking at the high-grade resource zones within that 6.7 million tons. About 3.5 million tons of that sits at a much higher grade, at about 3% copper equivalent. And within that, there's a very high range, as we talked, some of these massive sulfide zones. And there's a potential opportunity in having that material mined. We've got a neighbor mining operation right next door that does underground mining. They have a processing plant and a permitted tailings facility. So we are talking with them. They're very very good neighbors for us to have in a big, large district where they're mining lead, zinc, silver mineralization, and we have our copper, gold mineralization. So there's some exciting things going on in that. And then there's the exploration side of the story. And so, what I think in terms of news flow and what you can expect to see, we'll continue to push hard, get the permit. We expect to be drilling, April, May. That program's gonna take about 2.5 months to unfold. And during that time, there will be, regular news flow on the different targets we're testing, what the results are, and that type of thing. We're advancing our knowledge on the existing resource and understanding what potential value that could bring to the project. So I think the important thing for investors of Chakana is you're getting exposure to huge exploration upside. It's why Goldfields is there. It's why they've invested $12 million. You also have a high-grade resource that could be developed at some point. And it doesn't mean that we would develop it ourselves. It very well could mean that we collaborate with a mining group that can come in and do the mining and the processing. Exactly. Monetize it in some way, and that could be huge for us. And then, we've got future aspirations. We're actually very impressed with the quality of projects that are available in Peru right now, and a lot of that has to do with people moving on and companies tightening their ships and divesting projects or moving projects out of their portfolios. So we're always active in looking at new opportunities as well. So, the investors get exploration upside, resource upside, copper, gold, silver exposure. So you can participate in the copper boom, which everyone knows is going to happen. And then, there's the precious metals wild card out there that most people that I talk to expect that to pop as well at some point. So I think we're positioned very well for what's going to happen here in the next couple of years, and I'm excited to tell you the story.
Great. Well, David, thank you so much. It's been really interesting catching up. I very much look forward to seeing the drill rigs turning at Soledad in the months to come, and do keep me updated on progress. It's one I'd like to follow very much.
Absolutely, Merlin. Thank you for your time.